My name is Katie Hartley, and I currently teach middle school math at Miami East Local Schools in West Central Ohio. I'm also the district's value-added specialist, and I'm also a regional value-added specialist for the Western region of Ohio. A nonprofit organization called Battelle for Kids brought this thing called value-added data to Ohio in 2002, and the superintendent we had at the time had the foresight to get us involved in the program. I was selected to be trained as a value-added specialist, and so as both, I'm here today to speak to you both as a teacher who has used value-added data to inform decisions in my classroom, and also as a value-added specialist who has worked with other groups of teachers to improve their practice. Value-added data at the very basic level is a way to measure how much students grow in a year's time. It's a data analysis that takes a student's test history and test history of students like that child, and they use all of this information to make a prediction for how a student should score on an assessment at the end of a school year. And then we compare that prediction with how the child actually does. And the difference between how the child should score and how they actually score then is attributed to teacher and school level decisions. So in a way, it's a means to measure the effectiveness of a teacher and of a school. At Miami East, we've used these data, like I said, for the last 8 years. We've used them with different groups of teachers, and I'm very proud to say that for the last 2 years, we've achieved the excellent with distinction rating from the state of Ohio, which is the highest level schools and districts can receive. You receive that rank by not only showing high achievement scores, graduation rates, attendance rates with our students, but also showing positive growth scores, high value-added scores for our students. I'd like to go ahead and show you live some reports that we're able to use in Ohio. You can see from here that the EVOS report access has 2 different logins. There's the public level access, which I'm going to show you, and then there is an educator login. That is a role-based access. In other words, district leaders have access to district data, school leaders have access to school data, and teachers have access to teacher-level data. At this time in Ohio, parents do not have access to their individual child's value-added data on the state system. That's up to districts to decide how that's disseminated to parents. So we can scroll through every district in Ohio. I'll find, oh, too far. And we can automatically see a report here, and this is for Miami Schools reading value-added scores. It's a very basic evaluation of growth scores for students in our school district. The analysis starts in grade 4, and the intuitive nature of the green, yellow, red. Green obviously means that students in those grade levels in reading made more than a year's growth. They had high value-added scores. Yellow would mean that they were close to making a year's worth of growth, and then the red would be areas where students did not make a year's worth of growth in that subject. And this is also historical. We can look at data from 2007, 2008, 2009. So we can look at not just how did our students perform last year, but how have they over time performed in this subject, in this grade level. And then there's a 3-year average here. I can go back up here to the top, and I can choose, instead of reading, math. In Ohio, under the Ohio system, we only do value-added measures at the state level for reading and math. Districts do have the option to be enrolled in a project called Project SOAR, which Miami East is, that gives additional value-added data for science and social studies. It also gives scores for 3rd graders, which the state does not give, and then we have a high school pilot. But we can see this is now math. We were looking at reading before, so now we're looking at some math value-added scores for Miami East, again by grade level and by year. So we can see that over time, our 4th grade math students are making tremendous gains. Some things have, in 5th grade math, we've gone from a green to a yellow to a red. So as a 5th grade teacher or as a principal of that building, we need to think about what's been happening in 5th grade math that has led to these changes over time. 6th grade math, we're green then we dropped down to yellow, but jumped back up to green, so we made some adjustments there. And so you can see from this that we can, as a school and as teachers, look at how our students have grown and make decisions about how we're teaching, what we're teaching, and what we can do differently to impact that. I unfortunately don't have a visual for this because it contains student-level data, but I would like to give an example. I taught fifth grade math. This was probably about 6 years ago, and one of the pieces of information that teachers receive is a disaggregated report. In other words, it tells us how we grew our top achieving kids and our bottom achieving kids and all kids in between. And what I saw in one of the reports that I got for students in my class was the fact that my high achieving students had very high growth scores and my low achieving students had very low growth scores. And that's obviously a big red flag. So I, as a teacher, had to examine what I was teaching, how I was teaching it, how I was assessing it, how I was addressing the needs of those lower achieving students. Made some modifications, did some different things with assessment, instruction, brought in some volunteers, did some small group work, did some after school work with those students, and was able to use value-added scores from the following school year to measure whether or not those changes had been effective. Luckily they were, and our low achieving students were able to make those gains that we wanted them to make. And in fact, across the board, our middle and high achieving students also made positive growth gains based on that. And then one last thing I'd like to show, which I think is important, is the ability that we have to look at students in particular teachers' rooms. These are from last school year. These are sixth grade math reports. There were 3 different teachers in our district that taught sixth grade math. And just being able to look at the different strengths that teachers have. This is a report for teacher A, and we can see that these are broken apart into low achieving students, middle achieving students, and high achieving students. The green bar there in the middle would represent students at that level making a year's worth of growth, making it where they are predicted to make it. And we can see that teacher A is helping her low and high achieving students to make a year's growth, but luckily is taking her middle achieving students and taking them even further. Those children in the middle are scoring higher than they are predicted to score based on their test history, and students like them in the past have scored. Teacher B has a different look. Teacher B is making positive growth with her lowest achieving students. So low achieving students in teacher B's class were making more than a year's growth in a year's time. Middle achieving students were making it where they were predicted to, and high achieving students were making it just a little bit lower than they were predicted to. And this is an important thing to examine. We often in schools, when we're measured on whether or not children pass a state test, then that tends to be the focus. And if we sometimes forget those students at the high end who we know are they're gifted, they're very bright, they're going to pass the state test with little to no intervention from the school. We still need, as a school, to look at how we've grown those children. Have we met their needs? And this teacher, so if we look at teacher A and teacher B, they obviously have very different strengths. And this is a very important piece of information that then needs to be shared between these 2 teachers and the principal. You know, how is teacher A working with students that's helping those middle achieving students make the gains that they're making? And how is teacher B doing things that is helping those low achieving students make the gains that they're making? In other words, not all teachers have the same strengths, and if we can leverage the differences and the strengths that teachers have and use that in a forum together to discuss how we're teaching, that's the real power of using value-added data. Thank you.